In today's video, I want to show you 3 easy ways to instantly improve your beats. Whether you want to switch up your melodies, find unique sounds or make your beats sound 3D. I'm sure you'll find at least one technique here that will make your beats more creative and professional. So make sure to watch until the end so you don't miss anything. I said enough, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is automation. If you're not familiar with the term, automation simply means letting your DAW automatically control a plugin parameter over time. Instead of you turning a knob with your hand, the software does it for you, so the sound changes by itself as the beat plays. For this example, I prepared a beat to show you how powerful it can be. First, take a listen to the finished version. For this beat, I decided to automate the plugin Endless Smile. It's really easy to use since it only has one knob to control, and the effect feels like a mix between a filter and a reverb. In the intro of the beat, I started with the mix set to 100%, slowly brought it down to around 64%, and finally to 0. This simple automation introduces the melody without giving away too much. In context, you'll hear what I mean. I also use Endless Smile again later in the beat, but this time for a completely different reason. The melody was fine, but it started to feel too repetitive when played straight through. So I created a second automation pattern where the plugin moves rhythmically with the beat. The result is almost like a tremolo effect. Just this little bit of movement instantly changes the bounce and makes the section feel more alive. What do you think? Do you use automation a lot in your beats, or is it something new for you? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious how many of you already play with this. And remember, this is just scratching the surface. You can automate literally anything. Filter, cutoffs, reverb size, delay feedback, distortion drive, and even combine multiple automations together. If you'd like me to cover more complex automation structures in another video, just tell me below. The next thing I want to cover is sound selection. Most producers rely only on 808s to fill out the low end. There's nothing wrong with that, but it can start to sound the same on every beat. I'm not saying you should stop using 808s, but you should also be open to other types of bass. Using different bass sounds can make your beat stand out immediately. For this example, I made a beat that uses both a typical 808 and a synth bass. Take a listen. As you can hear, I used the synth bass for the punchier part of the beat and combined it with a simple kick. This gave the track a lot more drive and energy. In this case, an 808 alone wouldn't have had the same impact. But then in the bridge I brought in a softer, subby 808. The contrast between the aggressive synth bass and the smoother 808 made the beat much more dynamic and interesting. So, synth bass and 808s don't have to exclude each other. You can combine them in the same track for contrast and variation. Would you try a synth bass in one of your own beats, or do you feel like 808s are still king? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because a lot of producers stick to 808s by habit. Now let's move on to the last topic, which is the stereo image. The stereo image simply means where sounds are placed left and right in your headphones. Spreading sounds in the stereo image is one of the simplest ways to make your beats sound wider and more 3D. Let's look at the stereo imager to see where the 808 is hitting. In the first part, the 808 sits exactly in the center, which is the default. Later in the beat, I used Logic's stock plugin Spreader to make the 808 much wider. Listen to the difference. Decentered 808 sounds dominant and hits you straight in the face. The widened 808 on the other hand feels less dominant and leaves more space in the middle for percussion and other sounds. This shows how stereo spreading lets you control what the listener focuses on. In my beat I created one part where the 808 takes all the space in the center and another part where the 808 spreads out to give space to other instruments. And this doesn't just work with 808s. You can spread hi-hats slightly left and right for width, pan background melodies to one side, or use stereo imaging on reverb tails to create a sense of space. Do you ever pay attention to where your sounds sit in the stereo field, or do you usually just leave everything in the center? It's something most beginners overlook, but once you start thinking about it, it changes the whole mix. I honestly think stereo placement is one of the most underrated tricks in producing. Once you start using it intentionally, you'll notice your beats instantly sound more professional and much more fun to listen to. So, those were my 3 tips to instantly upgrade your beats. First, use automation to add movement and variation to your melodies. Second, experiment with different bass sounds instead of relying only on 808s. And third, use stereo placement intentionally to make your beats feel bigger and more detailed. Try these in your next project and let me know in the comments which one helped you the most. And if you found this useful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss future tutorials. Thank you for watching and see you next time.